5K Snipeathon is a public trading journey where I'm going to grow $5,000 of my own money to $10,000 trading currency in the foreign exchange market. This is a completely public and transparent trading journey where I give daily and weekly updates of the progress. If you want to follow and stay up to date on this trading journey, make sure you hit like, subscribe, turn the notifications on, and look in the comments to join the Snipers Anonymous broadcast where I update the chat daily on the progress of the account. Welcome everybody to the 24th update of the Snipeathon. This is the weekly update. First and foremost, before we begin, all praises to the Most High God for even making this moment possible. If it wasn't for the Most High, none of us would be here right now. So all praises to Him. I want to thank everybody for being on the call right now. And if you are here on the show, not the call, the show, go ahead and drop something, drop your favorite emoji or drop some flames in the chat. Let me know who's all on the show right now, tuning in. Let me know that you're here and where you're watching from. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the weekly update. So last week, we started with an account balance of, or we ended the week with we started the week with an account balance of $4,974.75. And we ended last week with $4,990.20. So we had two wins, one loss, had a win rate of 66%. And we currently have one trade that's open and still running. And the profit of that trade, the last time I checked, was $45.21. So we have an unrealized profit of $45.21. And the net loss so far for this account has been $10.60. Net loss percentage is 0.09%. So the notes that I have for this week is aim further. And I'll get into what I mean by that once we get into marking up the charts. But this week's focus is going to be the United States and the pounds, the pounds interest rate decision. So we have interest rate decisions for two major currencies this week, which is why we has really a lot of volatility opening up the week on Sunday and today. The market moved quite a bit, and a lot of that is because of the upcoming interest rate decisions. I believe that the commercial banks are getting in position, to basically be in the best position once the move happens. So, and that kind of goes hand in hand with my notes for the week as far as aiming further and why I'm going to be focused on aiming further this week. Welcome to the call, Joe. Welcome to the call. Welcome, Khalil. Welcome, Darius. Welcome, Kev. Calling in from New York City. We got Darius, who's tuned in from California. That is dope. Out on the West Coast, it's what time is it out there? About 6 o'clock. Yeah, man. We got New York in the building. We got Cali in the building. I believe Cleveland is in the building. But welcome to the call, everybody. Welcome to the call. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing, as always, we're going to go over this week's forecast as far as news releases, because we always want to know when volatility could possibly strike. So let's go ahead and head over to my Forex factory, or my FX book. All right. So the main thing that I'm paying attention to this week, so we do have some red folder news tomorrow for the euro and the United States dollar, but the stars of the week is going to be the United States federal interest rate decision, which is on Wednesday. Okay, and then the next start of the week or the next thing that we should be looking for is the pounds interest rate decision, which is on Thursday. All right, so the pounds interest rate decision is going to take place Thursday at 7 o'clock in the morning. So back to back, we got Wednesday and Thursday, and I wouldn't be surprised if these kind of like counteract each other, but we really want to take this into consideration depending on if we're in a trade, right? Which, I currently have a trade that's open and running. And so with the management of that trade, as far as taking partials, where I should move my stop loss, should I move it? How much further in profit should I move it? And these are all things that go hand in hand with trade management, and we have to take into account the timing of these major interest rate decisions or these major news releases. And so I just wanted to point that out, because as you're trading, as you're doing this on your own, if you're in a trade and it's a swing trade or a position trade, you want to be paying attention to the news. It's very important to be paying attention to the news, the interest rates, the decisions or the directions that they're going, and how that correlates with your position and where you are, right? So that you can make better decisions when managing that trade. But Wednesday and Thursday, right, we have interest rate decisions. United States dollar on Wednesday, the pound on Thursday. One is at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is the pound. And then we aren't going to get an interest rate decision on Wednesday until 2 p.m. for the United States dollar. All right. And so with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the dollar. Let's get into analyzing what the dollar has done, what we've marked up, and how everything is playing out right now. So the DXY, the Dixie, for anybody who doesn't know, is the United States dollar, or a measurement of the value of the United States dollar and the United States dollar alone. All right, this isn't paired against anything. This is the value representation of the United States dollar. And so starting from a higher time frame, as you can see, I still have this marked up, just showing basic market structure from the higher time frame. And, just looking at what's been going on since 2025, the dollar has been losing value, right? And the lowest that we got is down here at 95, right? We got down to 95, and we've crept back up to 101. I do believe that this is a pullback to go lower. I do not believe that the dollar is strong. I have no reason to believe that the dollar is strong. I do have reason to believe that they have reason to make us feel like it's strong, and just make it seem like things are good and okay. But the way things are lining up, just as I always tell you guys, the way things are lining up on the screen as I see it, and the way things are lining up in the real world, as far as the political things and wars that are taking place, I believe that the dollar is setting up to go lower. All right, and this is my higher time frame bias, but that doesn't mean I believe it's setting up to go lower on or the lower time frames, right? So we're at a point where we're looking like we're reversing or turning around. This is a reversal pattern that started back in April of 2025, and we're starting like this reversal pattern. And on the end of this reversal pattern, where it's really starting to break above the previous levels, we are currently in this leg or this extension right here. All right, and this extension has been taking place since April 20th of 2026. So March, April, May, June, July. So we've been in an uptrend in this leg for about 3 months now. All right, so about a quarter of the year. With that being said, where we are, it's a very tricky place because we could easily reverse from here. All right, this is something that we have to take into consideration, looking at it from the higher time frame. But as we drop down to the lower time frame and we look at what's going on currently, this is clearly an uptrend. We are clearly in a bullish market, right? We created this channel that we've been talking about, and we broke out of that channel. And last week, on last week's call, I talked about how we broke out of this channel and we created this high above the channel, which is the first time that that's happened. And we broke out. Not only did we create this high, we broke out, came to a sell zone, rejected, pulled back into a suspected buy area, and it took off again. And now we're at the top of the consolidation, or the zone or the range that we've been looking at since June 22nd of 2026. So we're at the top of this range, and as expected, at the top of a range, we're seeing resistance. We got a strong push up with a lot of momentum, and the price is starting to come back down. As we drop down lower, we see that we formed somewhat of a reversal pattern. All right, so the way this looks, it could possibly extend from here, right? There's a possibility that where price is at, it could push up. Now, whether it pushes up from here or if it pulls back, I'm expecting heavy resistance in this blue area here. And so this is where I would expect a reversal to start to happen, a short-term reversal, and a strong one. This is where I would be looking at my relative strength index, right? Where are we at the relative strength index when we are in this area? If price comes up in this area, what does the relative strength index look like? Are we at the 80, that overbought area? And is it time for me to start looking for buys now on EU? Or if I'm in a sell, is it time for me to shave some profit and take some more profit off the table and start looking at buys until we get to an area where I believe it's going to start selling again, right? So here's what I see for this week. And here's the possibilities and why I said in my notes, aim further. Why am I aiming further? Because this week, what's going on? There we go. Sorry about that, Joel. Because this week we have the interest rate decisions, right? So with interest rate decisions, we tend to see very large swings, meaning we need to be looking at where's the liquidity resting. And so I'm looking here and I'm looking down here. And I'm also looking at this low where I had this eye before, which means this really is setting up to buy, which is why I believe they're baiting a lot of buyers in, right? And before they go up, there's a strong possibility that we go down first. All right. Now, I want y'all to remember that. I want y'all to remember this possibility and why I'm going to analyze EU and why I'm making the decisions that I'm making with the position this week. So with that being said, there's a possibility that we could come down here and then shoot up, right? Maybe we see a large swing like that in between the interest rate decision between the United States dollar on Tuesday or not Tuesday, but Wednesday, and then the interest rate decision for the pound on Thursday. And I'm just throwing this out there hypothetically. Maybe this is what happens with the United States interest rate decision, right? Or maybe it goes even all the way down here. Don't you think that would bait a lot of sellers in? Like, oh, this is starting to turn bearish or bearish, which would give them reason to turn the market right back around and continue in the intended direction. All right, so this is how I'm looking at the market this week. And this is why I'm aiming for So let's go ahead with that as our foundation. Let's go ahead and look at the euro and what's going on with our current position. So where I have the eyes at, these are the areas of liquidity that I'm looking at as targets. Here's what I would like to see. I would love to see price drop down first from where it's at. Whether it goes up a little bit tonight and then drops off and comes down here, I would love to see that. Now, I wouldn't take a chance on a sell and try to sell from there. But what I would like to see is it come down, because if it comes down here and it takes out this low before the interest rate decision, that's when I'm going to take some profit off of the table. I'm going to take some more profit off the table from this position. I'm going to take about 50 cents worth of the position off. So you'll see 2,500 left on that position. And I'll take that profit and, move the stop loss up or move the stop loss more in profit. And I'm expecting, if this happens, if price comes down here, there is a big possibility that interest rate decisions are going to push price right back up above these highs. Right back up above these highs. Now, I wouldn't want to sell again until after the interest rate decisions and I see something like this happen. I would be comfortable with taking sales up near the top of the range. Now, say we don't get that and say price continues to just creep up and we come above this high and we end up stopping this out, it's still the same sentiment. I still believe that that is a run on highs and liquidity, and I would just be liquidity. That means that I'm liquidity right now, right? That's exactly what that means. I am an example of possibly what liquidity looks like. I got into a sell position last week here. It was a sniper position. Market sold off. I'm looking for the market to sell lower. And so if you want to kick people out of their positions, what do? You run the market up and you take them out. And then you go in the intended direction and you take off. So either way, I'm cool with that. Of course, I would prefer for the market to go down first. I'll take some profit off the table. And then if they come up and run me out, okay, cool. I took most of my profit anyway, and I'm getting in for another sale. So that's the game plan for this week. I'm aiming further. I'm not looking for anything within this range. I'm not looking to buy from down here, even though I believe that that would be a sweep and I could take it, back up. I want to wait because I believe overall we are in a bearish market and I'm trying to play the long game. I'm looking for that move. So that's the plan. That is the plan for the week. Is that simple. I'm waiting on interest rate decisions to come out, and in between now and then, I'm just going to be watching price, paying attention, continuing to monitor and manage this trade here. And like I said, if we get a sweep below this low tonight, I'll shave some profit off of this position, and I'm sitting on my hands until the interest rate decisions come out, and hopefully these liquidity targets get hit. All right. So that's what I got for euro versus the United States dollar. Let's look at euro GBP and see what's going on with it. Currently in a reversal after a strong sell-off. We broke out of a consolidation zone, and it looks to be coming back up to retest that consolidation zone. So more than likely in between tomorrow right? In between tonight, tomorrow night, the euro is going to be strong against the pound. So any buying that's happening is going to be more favorable for the euro short term than the pound. But long term, I believe that this is a retest of this higher time frame consolidation, meaning I'm expecting a sell off, which means weakness for the euro, strength for the dollar, and that's even further support if I'm expecting the dollar to continue up and go a little higher, and if it times up where euro versus the pound has retested the bottom of this consolidation and sold off, that's just even more confirmation. That's even more strength for a sell, or even more validation for the euro to be selling off. All right, so temporary strength for the pound I'm seeing in between tonight and tomorrow night. Long-term weakness for the euro versus the pound. And with that as our foundation, as a reference, let's look at the pound versus the dollar and see what's going on. All right, I got a sell limit. See, we got a sell limit set here. So I have targets on the pound as well. I'm looking for, again, interest rate decisions to possibly push price up in these areas for a sale. It happens to be the bottom of a higher time frame channel that's been forming for a long time. All right, since 2022. And we've currently broke out of that channel. And so if we come back up to retest the bottom of this channel, especially from, you see, we're looking at this from the weekly, time frame. I believe that's going to be a sensitive area. And I think that'll be a nice sell. I think that'll be a nice sell from the bottom of that channel on the pound. But let's go a little bit lower, see what's going on. We are approaching what I believe is a buy zone. And again, if I'm correct, we just talked about temporary bullishness, right, for the pound. And so things are kind of lining up. I have a buy zone here, what I believe is a fair value gap in between this line and this line here. And if I'm correct, the pound will have some strength tonight, and there'll be some buying opportunities for anybody who's buying the pound. And if we come back up here and retest the bottom of this channel, I believe there will be weakness. So let's look at Euro GBP. Yep, so euro going up should mean pound going down. Dollar going up should mean pound going down, but the dollar is currently, going down, which means the pound should be going up. But those are my targets for the pound. I still look at it as the pound and Euro USD. They pretty much move in the same direction, even though they're paired against each other in the euro versus the GBP. Overall, against the dollar, they move in the same direction. So I'm also bearish on overall. I'm bearish on the pound versus the United States dollar, and these are my targets. Okay. Now let's look at some of the wild cards. Let's see what's going on with the pound versus the yen. This is a pair that really moves crazy. It doesn't follow market structure as well as the pound or the euro. It makes a lot of large swings, but I see if you learn how it moves, you can harvest a lot of pips off of this pair. I just been watching it. I don't trade it much. I just been watching, trying to learn, how it moves. Currently, the pound versus the yen is definitely bullish right now. So that would be my suspected buy zone for the pound versus the yen based on what's going on. We left a lot of liquidity behind here. And then this is where I would expect the next area of resistance. I wouldn't expect it to push beyond this high. I would expect it to revisit it though. So especially with this this interest rate decision coming up. And then I'm gonna say, because of the way the pound versus the yen moves, I'll say this is the first buy zone. And then we want to look at a second as well because of this liquidity here. Imbalance. I was left behind. All right. All right, so this will be where I would expect the second buy zone to be. Now, this is all hypothetical. These are not trades that I'm going to take with my live account. I just want to see how things are going to play out. All right, this is how you learn pairs. You just mark them up, you let price play out, and you see how your markup and your vision, of that pair, how it lines up. And if it responds the way you thought it was going to respond. And then say it doesn't come down to the buy zone. If it does continue up and we get back above these levels, then I will start looking for buys again, but I will be trading in between this zone and this top zone. So this would be my buying area where I would expect to be putting on buys if it comes back up. But yeah, that's what I got for the pound against the yen. And then let's look at our economic indicators, see what's going on with US oil. All right, a lot of volatility, a lot of movement going on. As y'all can see, this is a V recovery, so this is a lot of volatility. This was a very strong sell-off, and this is a very strong rebound. I do not believe that we're going to come back below this low anytime soon. I do not believe we're going to come below that, back down below that low anytime soon. If it does, it's got to be manipulation because of how everything is lining up over in the Middle East, if the Middle East is even a thing. But the way things are lining up with Iran, the United States, Israel, and Russia, China, I believe gas prices are still set to skyrocket even beyond the last high. So we're coming back to the bottom of the range. And I believe this is where price is going to be tested. If levels hold here, I think we're due to come back up to the top of this range. So I would say, in just guessing timing, looking at where price is at right now and how things could line up in the next couple of weeks, we'll probably see gas back up to $100 per barrel. All right, we're sitting at $81.80, and it's a strong possibility that in a couple of weeks we'll be back up close to $100 per barrel, and then a couple of weeks after that, a month, we'll be back up into 117, 120, and eventually 128 and beyond. And beyond. All right, so that's my take on oil. This is what I see, something like that. All right, let's look at the United States top 500 companies. We are looking at this on a daily. We are extremely overbought right now, and we've come to an area of resistance, rejected, and we have not come back above this high. And things are lining up for these lows to be taken out. And that's all I see for right now. I'm not going to say that the U.S. stock market is ready to sell off. It surely looks like it, but a sell-off could easily be a pullback for more manipulation to keep the narrative going that we're the greatest country in the world, and our economy is doing just fine. Okay, but yeah, I see these lows being taken out, and I see price falling for the United States stock market. So, and this is the top 500 companies. So this is an overall measurement of the United States economy. And gold is doing what it does. Like I said, I believe this is in an area where it's getting ready to take off, especially with what is possibly going to unfold over the next couple of weeks to a month with this war. I do see gold going up. Once nuclear strikes happen, I'm not trying to strike fears. It's a matter of time. Once nuclear strikes happen, terrorist attack happens here on the home soil, and I mean terrorist attacks happen all the time against us, but I mean terrorist attacks on the mainstream level. Once that happens, that's when I believe gold will really start to take off. And if y'all can be poised, during that time, if you have a way to invest in gold, I highly suggest investing in it. If it's something you even thinking about at the moment, I completely understand. But, if you can be poised in that moment and take time and Wi-Fi is still up and running, this is when I believe price right now is in a pretty good buying area. Have to say, I'm not a financial advisor. Past results do not guarantee future profits, and trading involves risk. US 30, same thing, top 30 stocks, but we already looked at S&P 500. And last but not least, let's go ahead and look at what's going on with cryptocurrency. Bitcoin still playing around in that zone, at the bottom of that zone, and looks to be going lower as I would like and as I expect. Again, waiting on Bitcoin to get down to 45,000. In between 45,000 and 31,000 is, I believe, a premium discount to be buying Bitcoin. And for Ripple, same thing. We're pretty much down in the area where I expected to pretty much be hanging out at. But yeah, in between 95 and 80 cent, I believe is the discount for XRP. And that's where I plan on buying more XRP. So, but that's it. That wraps it up. If there's nothing else that you guys want me to look at, let me look at some of these comments. All right. Darius said Trump is also meeting with Netanyahu. Could that have any significant effect for or against the dollar or the overall market in anticipation of potential deviation to current tensions? So something like that, a political meeting between two big figureheads, um, is more so. It's not the meeting itself that would move currencies. Is going to be what's said, and what the meeting is about, but what's said during the meeting, and that's going to give commercial banks, large and smaller speculators, uh, basically reason to move money. And it doesn't affect currency as much as it will probably affect stock markets, but I don't think that that's going to have as much effect on the markets as these interest rate decisions will. When it comes to currency is really connected to a country's economy, GDP. What's being exported and imported. What are the inflation rates? What are the employment rates? What's the health of the economy? What's the health of the companies that are in that economy, right? So when it comes to currency, no, I don't think that it's going to have that big of an effect. It could have some effect, but I don't think it's going to have a big effect on price movement in the currency market. He said, I'm currently in a buy with USD JPY. Nice. From what I've seen, I think it tests near 16 for the 164 level with a rejection before it breaks through. Yeah, from what I was seeing, and I'll go check it out now. Let's go look at that now. Darius brought up USD JPY. He said he's in a buy, which that's a great position. I'm not sure where you are in your buy, but the United States dollar versus the Japan yen has been extremely bullish. Crazy bullish too. Yeah, this is what I call no man's land. This is like close to no man's land. Unless I can go out and see something from the past where we have some previous consolidation. Let's see, or some previous levels. Yeah, this is no man's land. So going off market structure, the next major level, of course, will be this low right here, right? Because we had a major rejection, which means more than likely, once it reaches this level, there's going to be some type of resistance there from the higher time frame, because I'm looking at this from the monthly. All right, so that's a lot of room, and that's also a lot of imbalance that happened on the way down. Now, before we reach there, we also have this area here, which it looks like it'll be coming up on soon, which more than likely will also see some resistance. So two areas of resistance I see here: this candle, which I would consider a monthly institutional candle. And so I'm going to draw this across. And so, like I was talking about trade management, right? How I showed you guys on Euro, how I'm expecting the interest rate decisions, what I'm expecting them to do in the large swings. That's going to determine how I manage my trade. I'm not sure where you are in your buy. Hopefully you taking partials, you taking you some profit off the table, some guaranteed profit, and your stop loss is somewhat either at break even or in profit, so that it's a guaranteed winning trade. Of course, you want to see the trade go all the way and just keep going, but you also want to take some stuff off the table, right? With that being said, if it continues up beyond, this is the area that I would be considering taking some profit off the table, because this is also the area where I would expect it to sell from. And that would be the first. The second one would be this line up here, which happens to be this monthly low here. That's a monthly low, so I believe that's going to be sensitive. And then let's drop down to the lower time frame and see what's going on, because you said you see it. Let me read your comment again. You said you see it getting up. I think it tests near the 164 level. All right, so let's see where 164 is at. All right, so that means that you see it testing here, which is where price is currently at. But from what I see it going beyond that from the weekly. Now let me see from the daily. What do we have on? Let's look at the relative strength index. How close are we to being overbought? Me personally, I like to see for overbought and oversold, or overbought, I like to see it get up to 80, right? In between like 76 and 80. That's where I really like to see it get up to before I'm, would expect some type of a reversal. Same thing with oversold. I want to see it drop down in between 25 and 20. So on the daily, we have not made it up near 80 yet, or near the previous overbought condition, which was at 76 and was back here, which, as you can see from the daily, the last time it was overbought and sold off, how many pips did it sell off? $226. It's a nice amount of pips, right? So I don't believe that it's there yet, that it's oversold on the daily or overbought on the daily. I believe there's still some room to go up, but let's see what the 4 hour is telling us on the relative strength index. Do we have any divergence going on in between price action on the screen and price action on the RSI? I would say no, not yet. Now, if this is something that you should pay attention to, too, Darius. Yeah, this is something that you should pay attention to, too, Darius, is the relative strength index. So if, say this happens, say you see price, shoot up, and at the same time, the relative strength index is lower. So you got a high here and a lower high, but you have a high here and a higher high. That's divergence and something that I look for in a reversal. And it happens a lot. You can go back and look at the history of divergence between price action on the screen and then RSI, highs and lows, or strength and weakness. And you'll see that this is where reversals happen. So this is also something that you can pay attention to when managing your trade and deciding if you want to close the trade, take partials, or whatever it is that you want to do. This is just something that you can take into consideration. But even still, I still don't see it overbought yet. Let's drop down to the 1 hour. Yeah, and this definitely has more room to go. All right, so we had a strong pullback here where we created this low. Strong pullback here. We created this low. If it was going to sell off, we do have the United States dollar coming up, the United States interest rate decision coming up. That's what you want to be paying attention to in the United States. Dollar versus the Japan yen, is that news release there, that interest rate decision. Now, again, like I said, I'm not sure where you are on your buy, but if you're in a buy, I believe you're in the right direction. You're in the, you in the right direction. You're doing the right thing. Even if there was a sell-off, even if there was, which I would believe to be a pullback, you're seeing my analysis on the dollar. I still believe that it's going to continue up. So, yeah, overall, I think buying is good on the United States dollar versus Japan yen. If you can withstand the drawdown, or if your stop loss is in a nice place. I think you're in a good position for buying. I do see possible resistance here, but I'm not sure if they're gonna push it up before that interest rate decision though. They could be waiting on that interest rate decision. I will be paying attention to how price moves in between now and the interest rate decision. If they play around and they start to, kind of sell off, I do believe that is going to be a sell off into a buy. I believe that's going to be a sell off into a buy. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. Past profits do not guarantee future profits, and trading involves risk. But that's what I see for the United States dollar versus the Japan yen. Definitely on the right side buying. But that wraps it up. Oh yeah, no problem, Darius. That wraps it up for the Snipers Anonymous or the Snipeathon weekly update. I appreciate you all tuning in. I hope you got value from this call. As always, I will keep everybody updated throughout the week in the chat on anything that I do concerning the Snipeathon and any moves that I decide to make. But like I said, I'm sitting on my hands. So you guys know what I'm looking for, what I'm waiting on. And again, I hope you all have a blessed rest of the night and a blessed rest of the week. You guys be careful out there in the markets. Keep your eyes on the prize. Remember, becoming a master trader isn't about mastering the markets as much as it is about mastering yourself and discipline before profits, but faith over everything. Good night, everybody. Love y'all. Shalom.